Hello, everybody. This is the Luzerne County Sports Guys, first edition. We're here at Dom DeMarco's, and I'm going to tell you where that's at, in case you don't already know. 9785 West Charleston. Phone number here is 702-570-7000. You can call that number and get their menu online. And you can order, take out, delivery. They go deliver themselves, and they have Grubhub and all the other things that go along with that. I'm sitting here with my sidekick, Money Mike Scalia. By the way, Dom DeMarco's is owned and operated by Albert Scalia, Mike's brother. And I can tell you something, I love the food here. And we're going to get Albert on here to explain how they make their pizza a little bit later when he's over there chatting with a bunch of people right now. But the purpose of this show is Mike and I love sports. We love the NFL. Mike is a little bit more involved in the colleges than I am, but I'm a little selective in the colleges and just pick a couple games a week. But when I had a whole big customer base, I had to use a lot of games. And Mike, say a few words.
Nice to see you, Jim, and I'm so glad tonight the NFL season is finally getting underway. It seems like it was just yesterday we had the Super Bowl, but it's been a long 7 months. And like you said, I do a little bit with college. Had a good start last week with three games, and I actually went 3 for 3. Now
You can't do better than that.
No, and I'm going to give out a play for tonight. I have a play on UAB plus 14.5. I think it's a tough game against Miami, but that's a big number to be giving. So
let's talk about that a little bit. You said 14.5. We're looking over here. If we look at some of the offshores, we're seeing Jazz, Heritage, Bookmaker. We're seeing all of those at 15.5. So there's a lot of money coming in on the favorite in that game.
Yeah, I see that, and I always like to be on the other side of the money moves. That's been something I've had success with over the last 50 years of betting sports. The money moves doesn't always mean it's a winner, so you got a lot of the public, but sometimes when it does move up maybe a point or so, you're getting some smart action, but, those people pick, they lose too, so I'll stick with my reputation and take UAB tonight with the 14.5. That's over two touchdowns, so, and then I have like 5 plays I'll give out for Saturday's college games that I have a good feel for when we get into the college. But tonight we're looking at Houston and the Chiefs, and the line looks like we're seeing 9.5 in most spots. I don't have a play in this particular game. I think it's a good matchup from last year when the Chiefs came back from 24 points down, I believe, to Houston, and came back and win that game and on their way to the Super Bowl. So it's the same number similar to last year when they played in that playoff game. I believe it was 10.5, so it's close. If I could get 10 or 10.5, I would lean with Houston in this game, Jim.
Did you just want to order some more stuff?
When this game opened, we can see that the opening at Pinnacle, which is an offshore operation, they opened at 10, and when that opened, I did take the 10. Now it's 9.5. I like the dog here. You got to be a little careful. These teams have not had a lot of practice time. A lot of the players haven't really been hit, and that's important. What we normally have with preseason and preparation, we don't have. Of course, it's the year of the COVID. Everything's different. Normal is not normal anymore. Hopefully someday we get back to that, but who knows. But we also have a stamina issue when players are not in tremendous shape. You're going to have an issue there. One of the things that's rather interesting, this would be a game that you would normally look at and say the Texans and Chiefs, they played last year, was high scoring, but that was at the end of the year when everybody was in great shape and everything. Of course, you always have injuries, but this game opened 10 and 55. And now it's come down. We're seeing a lot of 53s out there. As a matter of fact, if you look over here, there's one book. I won't keep mentioning all the books' names, but it was 52.5. So there's been a lot of money coming in on the under, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, I see that, Jim. And if I had my preference, I would lean that way because, like you said, not a lot of practice time, no exhibition games. The stamina, right? How are they going to be able to play? I mean, the weather should be fine tonight, and the big key, like we've been talking off the set here, is there's going to be no fans, and to me that makes me like the road teams a lot this year in most games because the home teams that had that extra edge, like Seattle, Kansas City, New Orleans, you're not going to have that, so it's going to make it easier for the road teams to hear the signal calling and everything else, and so like a high number with the total, you're talking 54.5. You're looking at 8 touchdowns. I know, last year in the playoffs, of course, it went over that because the Chiefs had fallen behind 24-0, so they had to score a lot of points to make that up, and they did. But like Jim's saying, the initial week or two, maybe, I would lean more to unders myself, Jim. I think you're right.
It's logical, and I go along with your thinking, looking at the unders, and the number... you look at this and you basically say, this has got to be an overbet, right? But not maybe after a couple of weeks, 3-4 weeks, when they get in shape and everything, it would be that way. So I can see why the money's coming under. But there's a certain point when it gets to a certain point, I'm going to have to say, hey, I got to play this game over. I can see 52 on this game. I got to go over that number. So. That's the first game of the NFL season. Hopefully, I don't know what the odds are of whether we're going to make it all the way to the through a season without a lot of COVID and all this stuff. But I think that would be wishful thinking to think that we'll never have an interruption or cancellations. But right now, we're looking at a game. Starts at 5:20 tonight here on the West Coast, and at the moment, it's 9.5 and 53 with a smattering of 52.5. So. That's where we're at with that game, and you like UAB. I did not bet that game, but right now we're looking at 15.5 in a lot of spots with this game. We're looking at Bookmaker, we're looking at Heritage, we're looking at Jazz, all 15.5 on the Don Best screen. So
when you see that, it's more than just regular bettors.
That's got to be some
money.
Bigger money to push that. I think I would think so.
Correct.
So we can move down here. I want to bring Albert Scalia over for a minute because I want him to tell you, first of all, you got to come over here to this spot. You got to come to Dom DeMarco's, and I will tell you their food here is incredible. And Albert is the only one that can tell properly how the pizza is made. Albert, welcome.
Hello there, Jim.
And this is our mic here. I'll bring this over here just a little closer because
all right.
we're a little too far
Thank
away.
You.
We're not technically proficient here, but we know how to pick winners.
Well,
Albert, I come here all the time. Basically, Thursdays we're always here, and I order from Grubhub and other places that bring your food over to the house. Of course, that's what everybody does now. They're ordering out. But your pizza is from New York. It's a New York recipe. This venue here is tied to New York, and somehow you got involved, and you've done a great job.
Well, let me tell you the story. But first off, if somebody wants to order from Dom DeMarco's, they should order directly from Dom DeMarco's. Forget about Grubhub and Postmates and Uber Eats because you pay a lot more money to have the food delivered by them. We have free delivery within a 5-mile radius. So if you're
outside the 5 miles, you should use the others.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, use the others outside 5 miles. But if you're within 5 miles of us, call us and we'll deliver free. You'll save a lot of money.
And that number, let me give you that number: 702-570-7000.
Easy to remember.
Easy, very easy to remember.
570-7000.
So we all come from Luzerne County, Pennsylvania. That's where the name Luzerne County Sports Guys come from. And Mike and I thought one day at lunch, we were over a glass of wine or whatever, we thought of that idea. And there wasn't the original name, but we decided the original name was Trouble, so we wouldn't use that one. So we are the Sports Guys. And Albert, you're in the restaurant business. You've been in the restaurant business, and you still are. Tell us how you make this pizza so damn good.
Well, let me tell you about this pizza. This pizza recipe comes from the Farah Pizza in Brooklyn. And the owner of the Farah Pizza in Brooklyn is Dom DeMarco. And I named the place after him because I spent 3 years with him working there in Brooklyn on Avenue J and East 15th Street. learning his recipes. And I was very happy that he allowed me to come here and use his name and his recipes and bring this pizza up, because you can't believe how many people come in here and say, hey, I grew up on Avenue J, or I grew up right next to the Farah. So I would say half of the people that come in here are from Brooklyn. But anyway, we use the best imported, and all our ingredients are imported, the best quality you could use, and the recipes are perfect. So all the pizza recipes are Dom DeMarco's. All the pasta recipes, the sauce recipes are from my family, which comes from Salerno, Naples in Italy. And I say at the Dom DeMarco's, you got to remember we have the best pizza, we have the best pasta, we have the best free delivery, we have the best patio. You got to check our patio out. And let me tell you a little bit about our happy hour. Happy hour is every day, Monday through Friday, not every day, not Saturday and Sunday, Monday through Friday from 2 to 6. Now, what do we have on happy hour from 2 to 6? We have 50% off all wines by the glass, 50% off all bottle and draft beers, 50% off all well cocktails, and we have 4 dishes that are usually $13 to $14 or $15 on the menu, which we sell for $6, which are eggplant pizzettes, chicken wings, Caesar salad, and a small cheese pizza. And then if you want to get the best of it is from 2 to 4, which we call the happiest hour, because at that time, any pizza that's on the menu is 50% off, and all bottles of wine 50% off. So you got to try us out for happy hour or anytime delivery, or come in. We got the best pizza, the best pasta. You're guaranteed to have a great time.
And they have a great staff here that does a great job. The place is very clean. They're all on scale and following all the protocols for the COVID, which we're all having to deal with, and 50% occupancy and all that stuff, and wearing the masks. And believe me, the food is great, the staff is great, Albert's great. We've been friends for a while, and that's only because he really doesn't know me. But joke. But then we're going to get back to football, and you bet some football. You like to bet as well. I know Mike is really avid into it and does a lot of the handicapping, but you like to play as well.
Well, whoever isn't familiar with Luzerne County, Pennsylvania.
Well, most people are not going to know where that is.
Let me explain it to you as Ricky would say to Lucy. Let me explain it to you. Luzerne County, up until about 1960, was considered Las Vegas East. Everything was wide open. You had 2 churches, 2 bar rooms, and 2 pool rooms on every corner.
That's true.
And there was all kind of action, anything you wanted, all day and all night. So we started gambling when we were kids, maybe at the age of 5 or 6, under the street light in the alley. So anyway, when it comes to gambling, these guys know what they're talking about. You may as well get it from the best.
Well, thank you. You know, it's funny, if I didn't grow up there, I probably would have never even got into this business, because like you said, it was everywhere, and you couldn't get away from it. And hanging out in the pool rooms, and it was incredible. It was fun. So Albert, thank you. We'll be here every week on Thursday at 1:00 to do this podcast, and we'll have our pizzas and pastas, and they have great stracciatella soup. Believe me, it's the only soup I have ever eaten with a fork.
Yeah, my mother's recipe.
Great. And where are we going to go next, Mike? We got some colleges. You want to talk about some of these college games?
Yeah, I'll just give you the games I'm leaning to. I'm not going to break them down because I really too much to really get into that. We'll get more into the NFL games, but I'm looking at Saturday. Like I said tonight, UAB. Now I'm looking at Saturday, Georgia Tech plus 11 on the screen. You could probably find 12 or 13 at Florida State. I believe that's a smart play. I'm leaning with UL Monroe. Now, Army had a big win last week, 42-0. And they were a 3-point favorite. Now they're up to like 21 in some spots. And UL Monroe is a kind of team that plays hard all the time. So I think that's an over excitement with the bettors. This line should nowhere be 21. It's way over the limit for this kind of team who runs the ball When you have a running team, you kill the clock, so that eliminates possessions for each team. So I'm leaning with UL Monroe in that area of 21 points. I'm also looking at one favorite here. Well, I like two favorites. The first one would be Iowa State at home, minus 11.5 over UL Lafayette. They're just going to be outclassed in this game, UL Lafayette. Iowa State is a very strong team in a tough conference, the Big 12. So you have to give them the edge there. And then I'm going to look at one of the teams I played last week that was a winner, Arkansas State. When they went against Memphis, they were getting 19.5, and they lost by 13, but they were in the game. They alternate two quarterbacks, so their offense is a pretty good weapon in a game like this. Kansas State only has a few players back from last year's team, which, even though they're in the Big 12, when you go over 10 points, now you're talking 2 possessions. So I'm leaning with Arkansas State there. And then I'm going to throw one more favorite in, and I'm going to go against a team that I had last week in South Alabama. I'm going to take Tulane. I was seeing 8, now we're looking at about 9.5 in this game. So
9 over here.
9. So it's questionable, but that's the lean that I'm looking at is Tulane. South Alabama played a team last week and had good success, but now they're stepping into a different league here with Tulane. Tulane's a big physical team, and I feel they'll win, and they should be able to cover this 9-point spread.
What do you think about this Duke-Notre Dame game? Notre Dame is supposed to be loaded. Like I said, you focus more on colleges than I do. But Notre Dame is supposed to be loaded. I know Duke from time to time can be a real sleeper, but there's a game that's sitting at 20 or 20.5. Notre Dame's the favorite.
Yeah, I hear you, Jim. Well, Notre Dame, to me, every year they play one of the toughest schedules in college, and now they finally had to go into the ACC so they could have a season this year. And Duke on occasion over the years has played Notre Dame and has been a spoiler on occasion, but boy, for a first game to lay 3 touchdowns, it's not a game I would wager on. I don't even have a lean, but I know Notre Dame is strong.
It's interesting. The game opens 19, is up to 20.5, and so that's a lot of money for a big number. Notre Dame, of course, is a popular school. And here's one up here that I bet. I actually took Coastal Carolina +7. That game opened 3.5 and jumped up to 7 at 6.5 in some spots. Any opinion on that game?
I would lean your way too, because who's Kansas to be given that many points? I know they're in the Big 12, but they usually only win 1 or 2 games a year, if that. I know they have the coach from LSU there now, but I would say a touchdown's a big number. I think you're on the right side. It's not going to be one of my plays, but I think you're on the right side.
Georgia Tech and Florida State, as you can see there. It's let me get this off the screen.
That's one of my plays.
It is one of your plays?
Yeah,
okay. You mentioned that earlier. You mentioned that's right, and it's up to 13. So you could people out there they could grab 13. Some of these, of course, most of the time you're going to see favorites go higher. That's people like to bet favorites, and if you're going to bet an underdog, you are usually better off waiting because favorites will go up the opposite with the dogs. Of course, we can move down here. I want to mention that when we told the media that we were going to do this podcast, Steve Karp was nice enough to come over and join us. We talked to Steve. He did a great article in Gaming Today, which is available all over Las Vegas. It's a Las Vegas a staple. I mean, it's been here forever. Steve does a great job running that, and I want to thank Steve here on the air for that great article. And everybody out there, you get a chance to pick up Gaming Today. You'll find it in most of the sports books. It's all over, and you can also call and probably get a subscription to it as well. And it's online, so you can go to gamingtoday.com and find it there. And that's what I do, because I don't get out to the sports books that often. I do most of everything online. So we're going to go into the pros. Game number 1, interesting. Miami Dolphins. You got Fitzmagic is still there at quarterback, and he's pretty magical at times, and sometimes he can be a nightmare. but they're playing up at the New England Patriots, and Patriots are totally different. Tom Brady is not there after tons of years, and now they have Cam Newton. Apparently he's doing very well. They've named captain of the team, and Bill Belichick is still there, and he is the genius. So we're looking at a game that opened 6.5, Patriots 43. And now we're looking at 41.5 or 42, and it's still 6.5. Anything on that, Mike?
Yeah, I like Miami in this game. In fact, I bet them +7. This is going to be a game from where they ended up the season last year when Miami went into Foxborough and beat Miami, and beat the Patriots and took them out of that 1 seed that they've had so many years. So they would have all those home games, which would help them make it into the Super Bowls that they've been in. But you're right, Fitzmagic will be there. There's good and bad with him. He's a smart player, a smart quarterback, and he knows Tua's going to be breathing down his neck, the kid from Alabama. So even though he's getting up there in age, I'm sure he's going to like to put on a good performance and play as tough as he can because he plays very tough. And the one thing we got to mention with these games, there's not going to be many fans in some stadiums, some fans no stadiums. So my theory on that is going to be the road teams are going to be very live in every game all year long. If there's no full stadiums, that's going to give a lot of these teams that had the 2-3 point edge over the years, Kansas City, Seattle, New Orleans, those edges are not going to be there. So if you're thinking you're going to bet the favorites and the home teams this year in the NFL, without those fans being filled, you're going to be on the wrong side, I believe. I think this is the year of road teams, whether they're a favorite or a dog. I think that's the way you should look.
I agree. It's not going to help the home teams to not have their fans there, that's for certain. I mean, you mentioned a place like Seattle, which has a monster home field advantage, but without the 12th man, so to speak, in that stadium, that's going to be different. And that's going to be across the board, except now maybe for a team like Jacksonville that doesn't have a home field advantage at all, ever, so it's probably not going to make any difference for them. But I lean to Miami, but I mean, there's a basic principle early in the season where division dogs, especially early in the season, do very well. 21-5 since 2014 for division dogs in the first 2 weeks of the season. That's pretty incredible. And just based on that factor alone, they haven't had a lot of practice time. We know they didn't have any preseason games. They haven't been hit. Their stamina is going to be less because they're not as in shape. You can't depend on anybody to be in the kind of shape that a coach will get you in, down the road. They push and push and push, but if you don't have that, so I think you're going to see a lot of that in these games. And of course, you got the injuries, and of course, the devil that we can't seem to see or fight is the COVID. When is that going to pop up? If you make a bet on a Monday or Tuesday when a line comes out, and then you find out on Saturday that somebody, a key player, has COVID and they're going to sit out, I mean, boy, it's like throwing money in the wind. So for me, who might be a $1,000 or $2,000 early bettor early in the week, and then maybe 5 or 10 as you get close to game time, I'm going to really back off, especially because you don't know this thing's going to pop up. They test these guys all the time. You never know who's going to do something wrong. Like the Cleveland Indians pitchers went out and did some stuff, and that caused the problem. And then you had some Miami, baseball I'm talking about. So it's going to happen in football. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative, which is another reason why I haven't entered any of the contests, because you got to get the picks in too early for me. I want to make my bets late this year. So right now, I'm leaning the direction I just said, the division dogs, when I can get the price that I'm looking for. Miami Dolphins +7 is an ideal position for me on that game. Moving on to the second game, which is kind of the same thing. You've got the Cleveland Browns at the Ravens. This game opened 9. We're looking at 7. We might get an 8 out there, but you're paying juice on the dog. But the Browns have they might have the best roster in football of all the teams, but they just find a way over the last half century of not being able to do anything right, no matter how many tools they have. So, but they have a good coach. I like what they're doing there. I like the way they built up through the draft. Acquisitions were great, and I think with the head coach's name, Saransky or
Zaransky?
Something like that. But he came over from Minnesota, offensive coordinator. He is going to implement what Baker Mayfield needs, which is a heavy package, tight ends, running the ball, the option, so that Baker can have a little bit more time. He's not a big guy. He's not that tall. He needs to set up, and he was not effective last year with the head coach that was there. Freddie Kitchens was not qualified to be a head coach in the NFL, and he proved that. He did. He proved it on the field. And this is a much better team. They're going to be dangerous this year, and I think they're going to be dangerous beginning this week against the Baltimore Ravens. I did take the 9 when it opened.
Well, I'm on the Browns side +8, Jim, and I agree with you. It's going to be a season like I have my friend here, Jersey Jeff, and he's been talking to me, and he said this is going to be a season of adjustments, and he's absolutely right. And the Browns, to me, I've bet under their win total the last couple years, but till they show me, I'll stay away from that kind of wager. But I do believe they have the talent now. How it plays out, I don't know. But out of my 6 plays this week, 4 of them are division dogs, 4 out of the 6. So I agree with you with that system myself. I think it's going to play big this week. So I'm on the Browns +8, and we'll see what happens in that game.
Jersey Jeff here. I agree with Jim and Mike. And I say they have a load of talent, but will they gel? They have not gelled. That's all they need. Loaded.
Jeff, when you look at the division, you got Steelers coming. Big Ben is back, but he hasn't played in over a year. You got the rookie at Cincinnati, which you got to figure he's going to have some bumps and bruises before. And they've got a coach that hasn't been proven. Granted, the Baltimore Ravens are excellent, so we expect big things from them. They could be the Super Bowl team this year. However, when you look at that division, I don't see any reason why the Browns shouldn't be favored to be number 2 in that division.
You're figuring the Browns? Give me their season win total.
8.5.
I would say 9 or 10.
I concur.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks.
They're at least second best.
They gel. I mean, they have the tools. They had the tools last year. It just didn't gel. Kitchens, a big upgraded head coach. I see that. So I see them really improving this year. Granted, Baltimore's tough. Pittsburgh's tough. We don't know what they expect from Cincinnati, except I don't think they're going to go crazy.
Are you guys big fans of Mike Tomlin as a head coach?
He's at times. I mean, the guy has 2 Super Bowl rings, so he's good. But sometimes I think he's a little too friendly with the players, and he doesn't discipline well enough and bring them under his rule. He's not Bill Belichick.
They've also lost some pretty strong roster players. I don't know if Ben's going to carry that team very far. A healthy Ben, yes.
Well, that's why I like the Browns. The Browns have a better team if they can put it together. So they should be favored to be number 2 in that division. And
it's a year of adjustments. I mean, if the players, the coaches, the line makers, we as bettors must adjust. If we don't adjust, you're going to get left behind.
Absolutely. The Jets at the Bills. Now everybody's sort of the Bills are the Super Bowl contender. They're going to win the division. They're going to go on. They're going to get to the Super Bowl. But boy, I got doubts. I think they're just being hyped a little too much. Their quarterback is still marginal. He's got a big arm and he can run. He's a physical guy. He's kind of a lot like Cam Newton, where he can really move the ball with his feet, but very inaccurate with his arm.
I agree with you there, Jim, and I took the Jets. That's another play, +7, a division rivalry game. I like Darnold. I think he's going to progress this year. And like you said, the quarterback on the Bills, I have to see it. I mean, he's a little over 50% accuracy. I mean, that's not enough. I mean, their advantage comes in the wintertime when it's snowing and they get those teams that play indoors or in warm weather come there and, they struggle a little. But we'll see how they do in that division. It's there for their taking now that Tom Brady has gone south to Tampa. But we'll see. I took the 7 with the Jets. I think it's a live play.
The one thing about the Jets and the Bills, when you look at the head coach, I give the head coach for the Bills a 9, maybe a 9+. You could go that far. But the coach for the Jets, I do not give him a high grade at all. And that's a problem for me.
Yeah, he's not my favorite guy, but that sometimes, you play teams whether, you're not all, like tonight, Houston. Bill O'Brien's not my favorite guy, but I would lean, if it was 10, I would play him, but I still lean with them with 9.5. And he's won quite a few games down in Houston. So, but this is Gase. This is, I think, do or die with him. If he can't make it here with the Jets, he won't be in the league much longer, So we'll see what he does. We'll see. He has some young players. Let's see how he progresses. First week, touchdown or more is a lot of points.
Sure is. Jeff, you have anything to add to that?
I agree. I think that division, without Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in it, in that division, with the Jets being in chaos, I believe the Bills will be good, but I wouldn't stick my neck out too far.
Well put. Next game on the card is the Raiders, our Las Vegas Raiders at Carolina. And it's actually hard for me to look at this and say, this doesn't make any sense to me. The Raiders open a 1-point favorite on the road and then now a 3-point favorite at Carolina. Now, I know Carolina's got a new head coach. He's coming out of college, doesn't have a lot of experience, especially at the pro level. They got Bridgewater at quarterback, who I think is very, very good. He's really not come back fully because he hasn't had a starting position. Well, he did start 5 games with the Saints, and he did very well doing that, but he had that terrible injury a few years ago where they were going to amputate his leg, which is absolutely a miracle that he's back here playing football. But he was very talented, and now he's going up against the Raiders. Carolina has a good running game. McCarthy, it's McCaffrey, right? And taking 3 at home, I just don't know. I mean, this isn't a division game, but you concur they shouldn't be a 3-point favorite on the road?
I agree with you, Jeff. I lean to Carolina. It's not a play, but this game should be maybe a pick. For all of a sudden for them to beat 3. I mean, like I said, McCaffrey's been tough to stop. They've had good success with him, and they're at home. I mean, we'll see what the Raiders have. We like them to do well because it's a local team for us, but us bettors, I mean, that we throw that out the window. And I don't think Gruden and Carr are a good mix. I don't think that's the right matchup, Gruden and Carr. And you got Mariota now; he's going to be out a few games. So the backup was a player that used to be with with either Buffalo or the Chargers. I forget his name, and if they have to go to him if something would happen to Carr, they're in deep trouble. So we'll see. They added a lot of new players. But you got to remember one thing: the Raiders gave up 18. They lost by 18 points or more 6 times last year. 6 times. That's a bad defense. Are they going to improve that much that they should be favored in this game? I have a hard time seeing them. I hear guys saying they're going to win 8, 9, 10 games. I have a hard time seeing it. When you have a defense that loses by that many points 6 times, to me there's a problem. But we'll see. They brought in some defensive coaches from other teams that have a good track record. So now we'll see. They're in a tough division. The Chiefs will be tough. The Chargers are no slouch. Denver will play well. Even without Von Miller, they'll still play well. So we'll see.
Well, okay, next game is very interesting. I mean, Seattle Seahawks, I'm a big Russell Wilson fan. He's absolutely incredible quarterback. But this is a cross-country trip to Atlanta, Georgia. Now, I know Atlanta has been very disappointing. They go back to the Super Bowl when the 28-3 lead at halftime, and ever since then they've been a mess. But they still have Matty Ice. They still have talent on that squad. And the Seahawks started 1, it's up to 2.5, and a lot of juice at the 2.5, favored at Atlanta. What do you think about this one?
Well, Russell Wilson's my favorite quarterback in the league, and I made 1 win total bet, and it's against the Falcons this year. They win 6 games, lose 10 last year. I don't see where the improvement's going to be. It's all Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. There's no running game. The defense is not that well. I don't think they've recovered since they lost to that Super Bowl against the Patriots. And they're in a tough division now. You got Tampa, you got the Saints. To me, there's 4 losses. And I think they'll struggle with Carolina. But in this game, I know it's across country. These West Coast, East Coast, they used to really mean a lot years ago. But without the fans in that dome, I don't think it's a problem. Russell Wilson is one of the most clutch quarterbacks we've seen in many years. And Pete Carroll is good. I mean, I'm not in love with his play calling at some points, like we all seen a few years ago in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. But I think they're the team, and I think they could outdo the Niners in this season. What do you say, Jeff?
Well, I think you're correct. I think that the west to east tool in my toolbox is still going to stay there. However, I also think Russell Wilson can overcome almost anything. He's proven it in the past, and he's going to continue to prove it in the future. He may be the best quarterback in the NFL. We'll have to see if, like you said, if Atlanta can overcome that hangover from that Super Bowl. They are still shell-shocked, and I don't have any belief in them.
Well, I don't have any belief in their head coach. I think he kind of the paradigm shift from defensive coordinator head coach was not good for him. And here's a problem. I don't know if it's a problem in this game, but it's been a problem the last 5 years. Pete Carroll in the first game of the year is 0-5. That's not a good start. You'd be called a slow starter. So. And delay points on the road, even though we all love Russell Wilson, he's not going to win every game. I'm not going to put any money on this, but in-game betting, we should talk about a little bit. In-game betting, it wasn't always available years ago, but it is now. And if you have online stuff and you got accounts at any of the places here in Vegas or your other places around the country, I think there's like 30 states that have gambling now. And, of course, you have the offshores. But online, in-game betting is incredible. So you look at a game like this, Atlanta jumps 7-0, you're going to get a better price if you want to bet Seattle. So the games and the lines change, and there's lots of ways to take advantage of that. And I highly suggest, if you have not been doing that, send us some questions or something. We'll try to answer them online for you, how to do it and what you should be looking for. But in a game like this where you say, I'm not sure I want to step into this 0-5 by Carroll in the first game, and you want to back off a little bit and maybe get a better line as the game goes on, that might be the way to go. Oh, the next one's going to be really interesting. We have a team that's called the Washington Football Team because they couldn't figure out how to come up with a name. Now, I don't know, that's really stupid to me that you can't find a name, but the Philadelphia Eagles are open a 6-point favorite, 44.5. They're 5.5 now, or 6, and 42.5 now this total. Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Football Team, can't even call them the Redskins anymore. They just got to call them the football team. But this is a division home dog, which would typically grab your money if you're following the numbers. But boy, I tell you, this Washington, they look ugly.
I agree with you, Jim. This is a tough game. I mean, it's not a play for me. I mean, we're Pennsylvania guys, and we like to see those teams do well. It all depends on Wentz. They live or die with Wentz. If he's healthy, they'll have a good season. If he's not healthy, they're in trouble. And last year they had so many injuries, and I'm hearing they still have some again starting this week. But Washington, with Haskins as the quarterback, I don't see much of a season with them. They drafted a few good players on defense, but to lay 6 on the road is definitely something I don't do. So, it'll be a good game to watch if you're a fan of either one of those teams, but it's a pass for me, in my mind.
Jeff?
Anything, Jeff?
NFC East, usually tight games, tough games. Philadelphia Eagles, probably ace or deuce in the NFC East. Washington football, no show. Can't see a play, not on Washington.
I think the only thing I'd do with this game would probably play the under. I don't see a lot of points in this game. It should be close to the vest. Rivera is there now. He is a defensive coach that originally came out of Chicago, went to Carolina. They probably will step up defensively. That's the way I would look at it, but I'm not going to run out and run to the book to do that right now. I mean, it's just a note. The next game's interesting. You got the Bears and Lions. This is an old rivalry going way back. The Lions open up 1.5-point favorite. Matt Stafford is back. He's healthy. For me, I think Matt Stafford's the best quarterback in that division. I know that a lot of people would disagree with me, but At his age, if he's physically healthy, I think he's the best quarterback in the division. And now they're a 3-point favorite at home against the Bears, who don't really have a competent quarterback in place right now. Trubisky is going to start. I'm sure that's the direction they're going to go. Foles is sitting in the wings, and we're probably going to see him in a while. I don't know if we'll see him in this game. But the Lions are 3-point favorite. It's 44 opener and 42 now.
When do you ever see the Lions as a favorite? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of talk, Stafford, this and that. Well, we're going to see Sunday how they play. I mean, I'm not a fan of Trubisky or the coach. I would rather see Foles play in this game, and then at 3, maybe I would look that way. But, it's the black and blue division. And like you said, he's the number 1 quarterback. Well, him and Rodgers, the other 2, Cousins and Trubisky, you're right. They're below them. But, man, I'm in shock to see this line that it went up, so the money's going on the Lions. But, it's a game to watch. It's not a play for me.
I'm not going to be betting it, but it is what it is. It's sitting there. We've got to talk about it.
I don't have a play either on the game, but I'd like to know what you guys think about the over-under in that game.
It's indoors. It's in the Lions. Typically, they're higher scoring games, but I don't see a lot of points in this. But I'm not going to bet it. I would like to bet it under, but I'm not going to bet it under a deflated line like that. It's moved down already.
I was leaning under because of Trubisky. I don't think he can score. I don't think they can score. I have a hard time seeing them score.
Where the point's going to come from?
This
You're right
is what
in
I'm
this
trying
game.
to say.
I love the fact that the Bears jumped up to take him over Mahomes and over Watson. They went. That's the direction they chose him over those 2 guys because they had the option of taking them. So what genius did that?
Well, he shouldn't have a job, I'll say that. But when I see a total, 41 is my number. When I see 41, I always lean to the under. Now we're looking at 42.5. So it's close to that, but I'm just saying I'm not a big totals guy, Jim. You are. But that's my theory on that one. But it'll be a good game. We'll see. I wouldn't give 3. I just wouldn't play that game.
I just go back to what I said earlier. This is a week of watch and see, and
Right.
I feel like these games are really going to be kind of like preseason games because not everybody's in great shape. Not everybody's had the practice time to really be in sync. And so you don't know where you're going to get the big effort from. And you're going to get the effort, but you may not get the consistency that you would if you were really in shape. I hope we get to the point where everybody is in shape and, we're not getting COVID attacks and stuff like that. But at this point, I'm going to be a little bit more cautious. I'm going to bet less. I'm going to bet fewer games and just go week to week and see how we do with it. We're here to try to have fun and give you guys some ideas. Don't go out and bet the bankroll, because it's a long season, hopefully. The next game is interesting. The Colts, they have a new quarterback. Big upgrade there with experience-wise, and yes, he's at the end of his career. But they're at the Jacksonville Jaguars, who a lot of people think are just dumping on the season already. They've gotten rid of a lot of players. A lot of people that were there want to get out of there because it's a mess. And I agree. It looks like the Jags are not coming seriously to play, but the players don't always think that way. It's the management might think that way, but the players want to go out and do a good job because that's how they get paid. That's how they get bigger contracts. So the players are not dumping. The coaches might dump. The management might dump. But the Jaguars are really weak, and the Colts are down there 7.5, 8-point favorite, total of 45, was 46. What do you think?
Well, you got Phillip Rivers here. I'll make one comment. When was he ever an 8-point favorite over a team when he was with the Chargers that had some good players with them? And all of a sudden now he goes to a good team, I'll say the Colts are an upgrade maybe, even though I like the Chargers a little bit this year. But who is he to be on a team and be favored by 8 points? I know Jacksonville's bad. They look like maybe they're going to tank and they don't care this year. But like Jim said, the players got to play. They want to get paid. They got to play. But to lay 8 points with this guy on the road, to me, his games all these years are always 7 points or less, and it's a last couple-minute score here either way. A touchdown, interception with him making some bad decisions, sometimes a lot. So to me, It's either take the points or just forget about it. It's a real nonsense game to me.
It is a division home dog, and that fits the profile that you should be looking. But the question is Jacksonville really serious? Where are they going with this league? I mean, they got rid of everybody.
It's not a marquee matchup by any stretch of the imagination. Phillip Rivers has never been surrounded by quality people. He's not surrounded by quality people in this spot. It's a toss-up.
The one area that I would disagree, though, I believe that the Colts' offensive line is one of the best in the league, and that gives him, he's an older guy, he's not all that mobile, he never really was, but now he might have the protection he needs, and he can throw the ball.
But does he have the weapons?
Good question. We'll find that out.
We'll find out.
Very tough game.
Yes, Hilton, but we'll see. It's a good game not to play. But
Packers at Vikings, and this is one that I would have played, but I'm not going to. The Vikings were a 3.5-point favorite, 46.5. It's moved down now to 2.5 and 45. I would have played the Packers plus 3.5. I will not play them plus 2.5.
I agree completely. At 3.5, I would play the Packers. But I used the system for many years, and when a home team is favored by 2.5 or less, that tells me they're not that strong, because most home teams, you give them the 3 points. And I won a lot of money over the years with that system, taking that 2.5. But it's just the way this game now, Minnesota's going to be missing one of their defensive linemen, which hurts. So that'll give Rodgers a little, he'll only have to worry about the one end. He'll be able to maybe have a little room on the other side to operate. But I just don't. Packers won 13 games last year. The total this year is 9. That tells you that a lot of those wins shouldn't even have happened last year. It's a false negative to me. So I'm going to stay away from this game. But if you can find that 3.5, which I don't think you're going to find around anywhere, that would be my play. But otherwise, it's a good game to watch.
It will be a good game to watch. It's going to set up a lot for this division. I mean, they're two top-ranking teams in that division, so it's an important game for both of them. But like I said, we're not going to have any money on it. Looking at the next game, we're looking at the Chargers. I know you have an opinion in this, and the Bengals. The Bengals have a new, relatively young coach and a very young quarterback. And the Chargers are coming in with a running quarterback that's not that proficient at throwing the ball. And the Chargers are 3 and 42.
Yeah, I played the Chargers -3. I figure, against Joe Burrow, the Chargers with the defense, Bosa and Ingram, I think they should be able to handle this player. You got a rookie coming in. They have maybe a few weapons, but they've had like 10 years of bad play, the Bengals. So the Chargers, I know it's an East Coast, West Coast, but he has weapons. Taylor, he likes to run. They got a running game. They got quality receivers. If they can't beat this team by more than 3 points, there's something wrong here. I mean, the Bengals, to me, they've been a no-show for a long time.
I agree. A new quarterback, without any preseason games under his belt, has to be a half a second slow. Chargers should be able to capitalize on that.
Arizona Cardinals at the 49ers. This is an interesting game, and a lot of people have a lot of opinions on this one. Arizona Cardinals last year gave the 49ers quite a bit of a problem in both games. And the Cardinals pick up a great wide receiver from Texans. And I still can't understand that trade, but they are going to be very difficult. Hopkins is very good. And the 49ers, of course, are the losers of the Super Bowl. They won. Mike beat me on that one, and I'll never forgive him for that because I led most of the game. I think I should get at least 75% of the money.
Hey, Jim, I tried to tell you they were going to win one for Fat Andy. You didn't want to listen. But I agree what you're saying here. I'm on Arizona plus 7.5. Another division game, dog. Murray will play good. He finished the season on a high note. The Niners, to me, I mean, Jimmy G, he's got to show me. He's got to prove it. I didn't see it last year. Kyle Shanahan, he's been in a couple big games, and he's 0 for 2. So we'll see where it all goes. The Super Bowl losers that come back the following year haven't had much success in the past. So When anytime you're grabbing over a touchdown in these division games, it's awful big. They know each other real well.
Expect the San Francisco hangover and take the hook.
Take the dog with the hook.
Take the hook.
Next game is very interesting. I think this is going to be a real highlight game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Tom Brady. Incredible. Tom Brady's been, in the league 17 years or something, and now he's down with the Buccaneers. They got a good head coach. They got an offensive weapons that are unbelievable, very strong, and he's a smart quarterback. And they're going up against the Saints in the Dome. Now the question where you got two 40-year-old guys at quarterback. Well, I don't think we've ever seen that before.
Never.
And the Saints are a 3.5-point favorite at home, 47.5, 48. The home. You talk about home crowd. Boy, this is usually a very tough place to play, but there's not going to be anybody there.
Without the fans, Brady will be able to call out the signals real well. I lean with the Bucks. I didn't bet them. I was trying to get 4. I was a little late, so that 3.5. I mean, if you're a small bettor, I would bet them. If you're a big bettor, I wouldn't bet it because it's a tough game. But I'm more on the side of the Bucks having an upswing. I think the Saints, they've lost a couple tough games the last couple years. They kept them out of the Super Bowl, and
sure have.
I think it's gonna an effect on them. These two guys are at the end of their career. Every game's meaningful now. Every game. I'd go with the smarter Brady in this situation. And I like the coach too. I mean, I know Sean Payton. He's got a good reputation, but I don't think he did a good job when they lost to the Rams a couple years ago in the play calling at the end before they didn't get that interference call. They should have ran the ball first, then go to that. But he didn't do that, and I think it hurt them in that game. There was no reason for that pass. They only needed a field goal. But we'll see.
If you can't bet this game, watch it. It is the premier matchup of the week. Two quarterbacks coming to the end of their careers. Hopefully they put on a show for us, folks.
And I think they will. And the 5:30, 5:20 game is the Dallas Cowboys at the Rams. The Dallas Cowboys, I mean, they have the roster. They have a lot of good players. They easily could go a long way into the playoffs and beyond. And they're playing at the Rams, who were in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but looked very poor last year. They really kind of mortgaged their future in that one year they went to the Super Bowl. They paid a lot of players. They got themselves in financial hell because they don't have any money left, and they've had to go on a fiscally conservative approach. They're not the Rams of 2 years ago. They still got Sean McVay there, but he has to now show us that he can coach with not the greatest players. They got a quarterback that seems to be good if you can protect him, but if you get him to scramble, get him outside the pocket, he's not that effective. Rams are a 3 or 2.5 point home dog, 51.5 total against the Cowboys Sunday night.
Well, I lean with the Rams in this game, getting 3. The Cowboys, they did improve as far as getting McCarthy as a coach. They finally got rid of the cheerleader and Garrett, but they have all the talent like the Browns you were saying earlier. But they got to show me. I mean, they get to these games, late in the season, and they haven't made a Super Bowl appearance in 25 years or whatever. So if you're going to be that good a team, the Cowboys say this is a game they should win with no problem because they're playing the Rams, like you said. But the Rams only lost Cooks. They lost a couple linemen last year. It hurt them. But they still have a couple good receivers. Sean McVay's pretty smart. I mean, I wouldn't give 3 with the Cowboys, but, this is the kind of game. If these teams are Super Bowl teams and are going to pick up and start doing well, the Browns, the Cowboys, certain teams, you got to win road games against teams that you have better talent than. But till I see it, I mean, I couldn't lay 3 with the Cowboys. They got to prove it to me. If I wanted to play and this was the only game, I would take the 3, but it's a pass for me.
If Dallas still had the cheerleader as their coach, I would say McVay could outcoach him. Now that McCarthy is in, I think it makes it a lot tougher. 2 good coaches, tough call, folks.
One thing, the Rams got, I don't know if McVay, a lot of people say he threw Wade Phillips under the bus. and Wade's gone, and that was a great defensive coordinator. So I don't know, what effect does that have on the game, do you think?
What was that? The coach?
Yeah, the
Wade
defensive
Phillips.
coordinator, Wade Phillips.
Well, I think it could hurt them. But Darnold should have a big game because the Cowboys are missing somebody on the line. I think the Rams beat them in this game. I mean, I'm not playing it, but I have 6 games going. I'm going to give you the last one now, but for Monday night. But I think the Rams could beat this team. We'll
All right,
see.
Monday night, we got 2 Monday night games every year. The first week we get 2 Monday night games. I don't know why that is, but it's always very interesting. 4:15, we got Pittsburgh at the Giants. Game opened 3.5. It's up to 6, and the total went from 47.5 to 46. Are the Giants really that bad to be a 6-point home dog to the Steelers with a quarterback that hasn't played in like 14 months?
Well, they get another new coach for the Giants. I wouldn't lay 6, and I wouldn't bet the Giants. I think they're both. But I think the Steelers are going to have a rebounding season. I think Big Ben thinks he's an underdog, and I guess he is with the Ravens and all. So I think they'll come out to play hard. Now, whether they're going to cover 6 points or not, Daniel Jones, he's got to grow a little. He had a lot of growing pains last year, very loose with the ball. He made a lot of fumbles. I wasn't impressed with him. Now, I guess he's going to be their guy, but we got to see what this Joe Judge does coming from the Patriots. Did he learn anything up there with Belichick? Most of the guys that leave Big Bill, the genius, they don't do well. Right. So now we're going to find out. To me, it's a game. If there's nothing else to watch, you watch it. I have no interest in that game.
I agree. I see the Giants as maybe a ring or notch better than the Redskins, and I see Pittsburgh as a contender in their division. If somebody grabbed you by the throat, lay the Steelers under.
Can you
7.
justify the move from 3.5 to 6?
Not at all. Don't understand where that's coming from. Unless a lot of reports from Jersey, where I'm from, are saying the Giants are a mess.
Okay. The final game of the week, Tennessee at the Broncos. This is another big line move. The Broncos opened 1.5-point favorite and 42. And now the Titans, who were in the playoffs last year, are 2.5, and the total is 41.
Well, this is going to be my last play. I'm going to go with Denver plus 2.5, and I'll give you a couple stats. They're 18-2 against non-division teams, and they're 16-4 against the spread in those 20 games. So Von Miller, he's missed a couple games in the past, not many. So that shouldn't affect this team. You've seen Tannehill last year. Oh, yeah, at the end he looked great. We're going to see now how well he does up in the thin air up in Denver Monday night. I could see the line move because of Von Miller, but you got to love that trend. 16-4 against the spread against non-division teams in their last 20, and 18-2 a winning record against non-divisional teams at home. So if that's not a good enough trend for you, I don't know what is, but I'll be on Denver plus 2.5.
There's another trend you can add to that. The Broncos are 33-4 straight up at home in weeks 1 and 2. Now,
very strong.
Conditions are different, teams are different, players are different, coaches are different. All that old stuff doesn't always apply to today. But got Tennessee. We talked about it earlier. Stamina is going to be an issue because these teams are not in great shape. Now you're going to Mile High Stadium. And it's not that easy. I used to be a marathon runner, and I can tell you, when you run a marathon at Mile High area, up in that, it is not easy. And if you're coming from Tennessee, which is not that high, up there, they're going to have a problem with that. I don't justify this 2.5, 3-point move on Tennessee.
Listen to Jim and Mike on Denver, and add Mike's under 41 for your little parlay, folks. Right. Tennessee doesn't show up.
We do have, that covers our football. We do have some interesting NBA stuff. We don't have to go over it because it's basically a football show. However, the NBA playoffs are quite interesting. The Lakers are playing the Rockets tonight. The Lakers are a 5-point favorite. The 218's the total. I personally favor the Rockets in this game. Not that I think that they're the better. It's not about that. It's about the situation. It's about the timing of the game and the effort. I think the Rockets are going to come to play. I think they can make it close. They could win the game. And if you're going to take a 5-point dog, you better hope and think that at least they could win the game. I favor the Rockets, not a big bet. You go into Friday. We don't do these until next Thursday, so I have to cover these. The Celtics, they're all neutral. Celtics, Raptors. The Celtics are 2.5-point favorite, 203.5. I lost with this the other night. I had the underplay, 209, 210. It got double overtime and went over, so I lost. That was a tough beat. But those things happen. But the Celtics being favored in this after blowing the opportunities, it bothers me because I had the Celtics to win the series. But quite frankly, I'm not that sure now. I don't like the fact that they didn't close it off. You got two good coaches. The teams are close. They're not that far apart. And I don't see why anybody should be favored in this game the way they've played. And so I think it's going to be really tight. The Nuggets and Clippers, that's a mismatch. The Nuggets can't keep up with the Clippers, which are probably the deepest team in basketball right now.
I agree with you there with the Clippers, Jim. I'm not a big NBA guy. I did make a few bets during the playoffs, and I've had a little success. But I think that Boston-Toronto game should be a pick. And now that Boston was up 3-1, now they let Toronto back in. And Toronto are the champs from last year. I know they're without Kawhi Leonard. It might give them a little motivation in this last game, a little momentum. So if I were to play anything out of the three you mentioned, I would take the Raptors with the 2.5. But I'm waiting to see who Miami gets out of that because I like the way that Miami's playing. They're 8-1 in these playoffs since they went into the bubble, and I think Spoelstra, a great coach. I think they'll have a shot against Boston and Toronto, and then you'll have the LA teams battling, and one will go to the championship against one of the East Coast teams, maybe, and we'll see what happens.
Hats off to the NBA. I think they've done a great job with their bubble. I was skeptical about baseball doing them, and they've made it, and they've had some problems, but they're more than halfway past that 60 game, so they're past the 30 game mark. They've done okay. Had a lot of cancellations, a couple tests here and there, guys stepping out of line, people making mistakes, but that happens. But this NBA bubble has been absolutely unbelievable. They've done a great job putting this together. And Jeff, you into the NBA at all? You have anything you want to add to this?
Very little. I think the Clippers are probably the team to beat by all estimation. I think that they've also done a fantastic job. I didn't hear of any illnesses. Have you guys heard of anything in the NBA?
No,
nothing?
No.
Kudos to them. Great job.
Well, I've got an injury here, so let's take a look at this. What is this? We got. That's not going to be anything too important.
None of them are.
No. I think we're cool with that. So the NBA is now. The next. What happens next? Are we going to make it through the NFL season with the COVID issue? What's going to happen with college basketball? There's so many issues. This is a crazy time. 2020 is a year I think we all would have just forget about the whole damn thing. We're all walking around with masks on, and but it's dangerous. I mean, there's people out there getting sick and dying, and it's not a joke. I mean, we don't like it. But we can't do anything about it except try to stay safe. Listen, this is our first show, Luzerne County Sports Guys. Mike Scalia.
Jersey Jeff,
thanks for joining us. The guys over there, you enjoy the show? It's okay? All right, first show.
All right, we'll see you next week. Just cash tickets. That's
Good luck,
all.
everybody.
This is Jim Feist. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.